time in a natural setting recently. Maybe walking in the fields or in the woods, maybe just in your garden, or perhaps by the sea. Feel free to share anything like that in the chat, and it'll be great to hear from anyone who's listening now. And we'll be bringing some of the feelings that come when we're in nature into our meditation practice today. So I live in South Wales in the United Kingdom, and I'm really lucky that I'm close to the sea. And there are some favourite spots where I like to watch the waves. The coastline here, it's quite raw. It's battered by the great big waves that come from the Atlantic. And there are these huge cliffs that fall away dramatic right the way down to rocky beaches. And on a stormy day, the waves come crashing on shore and then they suck back the scree and the pebbles. So that's quite dramatic. And I also like to watch the waves when the sea's calmer. And there's something very soothing about just watching the rise and fall of a wave and then seeing how when a wave breaks, it just ripples onto the beach and then it draws back. So that's the image that we're going to be using today, the image of a wave. And images can be a great way to help us connect with meditation. And personally, I like to use them in my own practice. So meditation is about being fully present here and now. And you might think, well, an image is something that takes us away from here and now. But if we can use an image skillfully, we can use it to support us as we pay attention to the breath and the body, and it touches something in us. Yeah, our minds work on different levels, and images can engage more of us. They can make the practice more vivid, more alive, so that we feel more present. Yeah. So I want to thank everyone for sharing in the chat. Yeah, I can see that some of you have been spending time in nature with family in forests, jogging in the park, hiking above Los Angeles. Okay. And kayaking. Great, that's really good to hear and to feel a connection with you. So if any questions come up for you during the practice, just ask in the chat and I'll have an opportunity to answer them later on. But whatever your experience has been, maybe you've just woken up, maybe you've had a busy day, whatever it is, bring that to the practice. So we're going to start with how we sit and finding a way to sit for the practice that feels comfortable but also alert. You can also maybe reflect on how you want to relate to the screen. So if your eyes are closed, you may not need to be facing the screen, because we need to be in our own space when we meditate. So just checking what's right for you in the practice. We usually close our eyes for these meditations, but you don't have to. But if you don't close your eyes, just have them resting on something fairly neutral. Okay, so finding the posture and connecting with the body. Maybe take a breath. And we're letting things slow down. So feel the points of contact where your body is touching the floor. So the knees and the feet. If you're on a chair, then sitting on the chair and feeling contact between your bottom and the chair. And really sensing what's there. So not thinking about it, sensing it, feeling it, experiencing it. And at the same time, feeling the whole height of the body, sensing the body rising up. So feeling the height of the body and the breadth. Take a breath. We're grounding our awareness. So breathing and letting the breath flow naturally. We breathe all the time. We're not breathing in a special way, except for maybe take a deeper breath and then just let go on the out breath. Feeling the journey of the breath through the body. Noticing the breath entering the body at the nostrils, and then down the body through the windpipe, the chest, the tummy. So the breath is all of these sensations. The breath is the body moving. The breath flows. It flows in, it flows out. And the body kind of rises and settles. So not exaggerating that, but just sensing the natural movement of the body as breath flows in and breath flows out. Settling. The breath is like a wave. It rises, it falls, like a wave in the sea. You may have an image of a wave in the sea. Could be a wave breaking on the beach, or it could simply be a wave out at sea that just rises and settles. And this is the image we'll be working with. We'll be working with it in conjunction with sensing the breath. So just as the breath rises and falls, so the wave rises and falls. So staying with the sensations in the body, maybe taking the tummy as our focus. The tummy rises and we feel the skin just rising and stretching. As we breathe out, it softens, it eases, and then we can have a lovely sense of letting go. And this is like the wave rising and breaking, falling. And if we're by the sea, we don't only see the wave, we hear it. We hear it lapping with low sounds by the shore, breaking and withdrawing. perhaps as well as seeing and hearing the wave, you can smell it, that salt smell. As we breathe in, as we breathe out. And maybe we taste it. So one of the things that happens as we settle is that we notice our thoughts. And it may be that thoughts have been arising, they've been taking our attention, and it may be that even as we're sitting here, we found ourselves thinking about all sorts of things. And what we learn when we notice that is that the mind is alive. The mind is like a wave. Or perhaps it's like the spray on the top of a wave. So we can just notice how the thoughts rise and fall. And every time we notice that, it's the opportunity to come back to the breath. Just staying present. Feeling the breath. As we stay with the breath, as we stay with this image of the wave rising and falling, gradually connecting with the body, with our thoughts, and with our emotional experience. Our state of mind. That's also changing, it's also fluid. We notice perhaps as we settle more deeply into the practice, the breath rising and falling, connected with our energy, rising and falling like a wave. The energy of our body, our life force. staying present. Breathing. Settling. Resting. Using the image of the wave to help us stay with the breath. Maybe noticing the feelings that the wave evokes. What are those feelings? How do we experience them in the body, in the moment? Seeing the wave, hearing the wave, tasting the wave, smelling it, touching it. As we breathe in, as we breathe out. Breath rising and falling. Sensing the breath. Sensing the wave. Sensing the movement of energy in the body. Rhythm, flow, staying present. Breathing, sensing, experiencing. Settling. breath rises and falls just like a wave. And we're moving now towards the ending of this practice. So we'll make a very gentle transition. Maybe taking a slightly deeper breath. And then introducing a little bit of movement. Rolling your shoulders, moving your fingers, moving your toes, adjusting your posture a little bit perhaps. Okay, so moving from one state now to another, I just want to say a few things about the practice. So it's a meditation on the breath, and in a way that's the commonest kind of meditation. And so there's a lot that we could explore about meditation on the breath and using the breath as a focus. But we used an image, and the image was the wave. So then there's something else to reflect on, which is, you know, what's happening when we use an image in meditation. So there's a natural affinity between the two because the breath is quite like a wave. You know, they rise and fall. And I think combining the two is a helpful way to engage with using images. And images can take us off. You know, I can be thinking about a wave, and then I'm on a beach, and then I'm with my family on the beach, and I'm thinking of things that happened and all the rest of it. So we can easily get lost in a fantasy. So what we're doing in using an image is finding the elements of the image that help us to be more aware in the present moment. So the elements of the image that support present moment awareness. And we can just reflect on that. So what was that like in that practice? What was it like for you? Was it like to focus in that way on the breath? Perhaps that's a familiar thing for you. It is a very common aspect of meditation, but it might be new. And how did it feel to use the image of the wave? How did you respond to that? So those are some questions, and if any questions came up for you during the practice, please feel free to ask them now. Ask them in the chat. And as we're reflecting in that way, maybe just kind of considering what it was that the meditation touched for us. For example, perhaps there was a sense of being centered. Perhaps there was something about images. And I think that's particularly relevant because with this series of meditations, which I'll be doing over the next period of time, is on the theme of engaging imagination. So breath is a very simple thing that helps us stay with the body, but an image, maybe it sparks something. And then how do you work with that? Because it's quite rich to use images. There are feelings involved. This is why poetry is full of imagery. And actually there are lots of poems where we have the image of the wave, the long withdrawing roar of the wave, or the lapping on the beach. And I think that's because an image can open something up in our minds, open up our imagination. So it may be that it's just evoked something quite simple. We can be on a beach. I was actually on a beach yesterday, and there's all sorts of things going on a beach, aren't there? And this kind of way of using the image of a wave is different from what we're usually doing on beaches, what most people are doing on beaches, which is to really be in the present moment. So how is it to be in the present moment? Like those lovely moments where you are just sitting beside a lake or beside the sea, watching the waves, and that is enough. So we become absorbed in our surroundings, in that situation, and that evokes something. And when we recall it in our memory, that evokes it as well. So I really invite you to look for those moments of calm, look for those moments of imagination, to be present with what nature is bringing to us. And to be present with the body, seeing that the body moves like a wave. That's also a way to see that we're alive and changing. And that's where maybe the wisdom of the image resides. There's a mindfulness teacher called John Kabat-Zinn, a very famous mindfulness teacher. He says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. So thank you for joining me. Follow me on my profile to practice this session again and see when I'm going to be live next. And in the meantime, stay with the wave, stay with the present moment, stay with your practice. Do this practice again, and, well, what can I say? Keep riding the waves. Goodbye.